Let's whip up some bread together. So this is my basic sandwich bread recipe that I do every single week, and it makes 2 loaves. And I don't always need 2 loaves because it goes bad really, really fast, and I don't like freezing my bread. So what I do is I typically make rolls, buns, things that we would have for dinner. Like today, I'm making sandwich bread and I'm making focaccia instead of making 2 loaves. The full recipe is going to be over on the blog, but it is 6 cups of flour. You can use any kind of flour you like. I use bread flour, and then I also cut it with a little bit of fresh milled flour too. I use about a third. So 6 cups, I use 4 bread flour and 2 of hard white wheat in this case. And then you're going to add a little bit of salt, and you're going to add a shortening of your choosing. I do tallow, but you could use butter, you could use Crisco, you could use olive oil if you like, a little bit of salt, and 4 teaspoon of yeast, and then water until a little bit at a time until it gets off the side of the bowl. Now, I also take it out and knead it by hand as well because I don't feel that the KitchenAid like incorporates everything. You notice I'm not using any extra flour here. That is the website. We try to keep it ad-free over there, so anytime you participate, we're always happy to have you. You can get straight to the recipe just by going to the website. You don't have to read a long ass story of mine. After I get it in a smooth and consistent ball, I typically throw it back into a bowl with a little bit of olive oil on it, and then cover it and let it rise for about 2 hours. So today I decided to make 1 loaf of sourdough, and we're also making 1 loaf of focaccia. But like I said, I have made lots of other things instead of that second loaf. Focaccia is one of our favorites, especially to go with any kind of Italian food or pasta or anything like that. And you could basically put anything you have on hand on it. I've done it with garlic and rosemary. I've done it with olives. I've done just cheese on the top. Today, I'm actually doing jalapeno and some Parmesan cheese. So I just am eyeballing it, cutting it in half, and getting it rounded out, using all those sourdough techniques that you picked up now that you've gone back to yeast bread. It actually works really well. Then you're just going to put it in whatever your focaccia pan you have. You can put it in a brownie pan, whatever. You're just going to spread it out. It will rise and fill the whole pan, so you don't have to worry about getting it perfect. And then for my loaves, again, using some of those sourdough techniques that I picked up over the years, just flattening it out and then roll pinching it into a loaf, and then make sure that you pinch all the edges and the ends and kind of tuck them under a little bit. It will just help you to get a better rise out of this yeast dough. And then I put that into a oiled loaf pan, and then I set it in the oven with just the light on for about an hour. The first rise is 2 hours. The second rise is 1 hour. And then after that, we'll be ready to start baking the bread. So I'd love to hear your ideas of maybe things that I could do with that second half of that dough. Sometimes I'm just making focaccia or buns, even if we don't need them, and then freezing them for later. But I'd love to hear your ideas. Here, I'm just using what I have on hand to put on the focaccia. Put your olive oil on it. Always, you put salt, pepper, any kind of herbs. I'm just putting fresh cut jalapenos. And then I'm also putting some leftover Parmesan cheese on here. And, gotta get it perfect. Squish your little fingers in there. Make all those little divots and little holes, and then rearrange everything you already put on top so that it looks great. My family really likes this. Usually I do it with cheddar cheese. Sometimes I mix it into the actual bread, but I find it rises better if I just do it this way. And then it goes straight into the oven like this. I cook both the loaf and the focaccia at about 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. But I have found over the time that some flours have different cook times. But I think it turned out pretty nice. Thanks for joining me. I hope you have a great day.